Tasukete Tako-San, or Save Me Mr. Tako, feels like a remake of a classic Game Boy game that I just never played before. It's a modern game that pays homage to the games released back in the early 90s on the original Game Boy. In what feels like Kirby's Dreamland remixed as a Metroidvania game, Mr. Tako has a charm to it, one that shines in the overflowing abundance of Metroidvania indie games that came out this year. In a world where octopi and humans wage war between land and sea, a young and brave octopus named Mr. Tako hopes to put an end to it all. One day, the army of octopi throw a woman overboard only to be saved by a passing Mr. Tako. Seeing his act of bravery, a fairy grants him the power to traverse both land and sea. With his new power and an assortment of different hats that grant him even more abilities along the way, Mr. Tako will end the war once and for all. It's a straightforward story, but one that's fleshed out by the assortment of different NPCs you'll meet along the way. It surprised me just how much development there was with some of the characters you come across. I was quickly and easily fooled by the simple retro designs of the visuals that the deeper character introduction sort of just snuck up on me. It was a pleasant surprise though. I also really appreciated the little nods of dark humor in there. I mean, I'm an octopus talking to a dude that says he misses eating octopus. It's so messed up, but I absolutely love it. Save Me Mr. Tako is a Metroidvania game that takes elements from a handful of different Game Boy games to create something new. It's a remix of sorts with its own unique story to back it up. Mr. Tako may look simple, but it's not a straight up level to level linear setup. In total, there are 6 worlds to explore that are filled with main levels, hub areas, side quests, and more. It's all structured very similar to Kirby's Adventure on the NES. Doors open up on a world map that leads you into either levels or hub areas. Mr. Tako himself is a very simple character. His abilities are limited to just moving, jumping, and shooting ink. However, throughout his adventure, that gets slightly fleshed out with the hats he finds. There's a total of 50 unlockable hats for you to find, and each one gives you a new power to use. They help add a bit of diversity to the gameplay and even add some Metroidvania elements for backtracking to previous levels. Normally, gameplay has you just shooting enemies to stun them and then use them as a platform. It's certainly simple to pick up and play. However, the physics on the other hand were a bit of a mixed bag for me. Mr. Tako feels floaty, although with a sense of precision to it. It's honestly really hard for me to describe. There are moments where I make leaps of faith that feel like they just shouldn't work and I'll somehow just still make the jump even though I really shouldn't have. Other times it feels like the game just turns off that float factor. It's really weird feeling like there isn't always a consistency to it, and so at times it can be a bit frustrating. There's even been moments where I've sort of broken the rules of the game. I activated a dialogue scene when an enemy was near me, and that pretty much forced me to die after it was over. Another time I somehow managed to stun an enemy right above me that got me stuck underneath it, leaving me to pretty much forcefully die or just be stuck in an infinite loop. Moments like that can get really annoying because if you don't have any lives after that, you get sent to the beginning of the level, and if you do have a life, then you get sent back to the last checkpoint, but that's backtracking that really just shouldn't have happened. Outside of those rare moments, I enjoyed the constant new elements thrown at me. While yes, Mr. Tako himself doesn't have this grand diverse set of moves, the world around him is constantly still changing. Levels start off simple, but the dungeon-like design of them quickly evolve with every few levels. Early on, for example, flowers start to appear that launch you across the stage. They're used both in the sense to get you to faraway platforms, but also as traps. As you begin to learn their tricks, the game will actually throw a whole new level mechanic at you and it keeps you on your toes. That choice in design kept me excited to see just what the next new thing was going to be. Now, aside from the traditional levels, you'll come across boss battles and minigames that add some extra spice to the traditional structure of the gameplay. Bosses got progressively more difficult over time. Much like the levels I mentioned previously, they rely on the changing environment to keep the fights feeling new, rather than giving Mr. Tako new forms of attacks. The minigames on the other hand are fun little distractions in between levels. One particular minigame that stood out to me was one where you had to make takoyaki. That's just really messed up, man, but I'll be honest, it certainly made me laugh. I couldn't help but smile anytime I played Save Me Mr. Tako. The visuals on display always had this charm to them that reminded me of when I first played Kirby's Dreamland on my original Game Boy. The assortment of different customizable options for the graphics were fun to mess with, and it nailed the feeling of playing a long-lost classic Game Boy game. From the options menu, you can change the aspect ratio of the gameplay to either play in full 16:9 or the traditional 4:3 aspect ratio with the frame around it. Furthermore, you can change the color tones of the screen as if you inserted an original Game Boy game into a Game Boy Color. The dedicated button to switch the color on the fly while in-game was also a nice touch that often had me flipping through the many color palettes. On top of the simple visuals, I really appreciated the smaller details like the animations that would make this retro-style game feel a little bit more modern. Whether it was just bubbles surfacing from being underwater or the small star sprites that come from landing on the ground. The little tidbits like that really stood out to me. Reviewing this on the Nintendo Switch, I didn't really find any performance hiccups while playing. Whether I was playing in handheld or in dock mode, I found the gameplay to perform well as well as scale well to the different display sizes. If I had to describe the music and the audio design in Mr. Tako, I'd describe it as authentic. It feels like a product of the time it's aiming to recreate. Sound effects are simple and mimic the sound of platformers from the early 90s. It didn't particularly stand out to me as something special, but it was able to at least sell me on the feeling that I was playing a Game Boy game once again, and I guess that was sort of the aim for this sound design. The music, on the other hand, I thought was a little bit more memorable. Like the sound design, it's also a product of the nostalgia it's trying to recreate. The tunes were generally catchy and very peppy sounding, perfectly fitting with the cute visuals on display. The one thing I'd like to see changed up a bit would be the use of HD Rumble on the Switch version. There really isn't any implementation or option to turn it on or off, and it would have been a cool feature to see in this game. Save Me Mr. Tako takes you on a charming trip down memory lane, combining elements from Kirby's Dreamland, Metroid 2, The Legend of Zelda, and tons of other games on the Game Boy. Its cute classic art style along with the authentic audio design reinvigorated the feelings I felt when I first got my hands on Shovel Knight. This game felt new and familiar at the same time. The mix of dungeons, minigames, and actual dialogue to back it all up in this retro-styled package was a unique take on the Metroidvania genre that's become so saturated lately. Sure, some of the platforming can feel a bit off at times, but it didn't manage to dilute the quality of the game as a whole for me, at least not enough to make it a bad game or a mediocre game. While there certainly hasn't been a shortage of solid Metroidvania games released on PC or Switch this year, Save Me Mr. Tako is definitely one of the cutest and one of the best so far. I give Save Me Mr. Tako an 8.5 out of 10. If you found this review helpful, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends. It helps more people find out about my videos, and I really do appreciate it. Plus, I'm also trying to hit 100k soon, and I'd love to make this my full-time job. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and keep on gaming.